Oh,
I got Lord of the Rings on my mind.
it's fair. I'm literally Frodo. In the bottom left, in the blue for Mystery Gaming, the Terran player, the mystery. It is Oriana.
And up here in the top right-hand side of the map, we have our red Protoss player. He is TeebuL. He's representing Berserker Esports.
As we do the intro, I just kind of realized how topical it is that Oriana is signed to Mystery Gaming, considering, again, how little we know about him. It's like the team owner thought about that when he signed the player.
Well, I hope that's not their long-term game plan. It's like, we're only going to keep these players as long as they're a mystery. As soon as they're well-known, we're going to drop them like it's hot. It's like, oh no, the mystery has been revealed.
I mean, they had Classic for a grand total of like 10 days, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a little bit less fortunate of a pickup then in that regard. But one day we'll get back all those ballin' Protoss players and stuff that went to the Korean military and everything, and they'll all return back and play at the absolute top level. But in the meanwhile, I'm just enjoying some of the other random Protoss players and stuff that we have, some of those cool Protoss players from the other regions that bust out some fun gameplay, like the ones we've seen today so far. We got a lot of Protoss actually today. I was remarking on this to you earlier. We have one match that doesn't have a Protoss player today.
Well, that's just why we brought you along, so you can serve as the... Okay, so you know, like, there's sometimes anger interpreters. You know, I'm here to interpret someone's... Yeah, Fear Dragon is the Protoss Madness interpreter. And your job is, when we get a weird build out of Haas or TeebuL or Nice or Max Pax or someone else, just sit there and kind of interpret it to the layman. Because, again, I'm not sure that I always speak chaos. I'm sure you do.
Yeah. I like that you changed that up from being a anger interpreter to a mad interpreter, a madness interpreter. That was clever.
Thank you for giving me so much more credit than I deserve. That was not intentional, but I'll take it.
You always play it off as though it was intentional. That's the key.
Something like that. But we do have something pretty standard actually coming out of TeebuL, all things considered, right? Phoenix on the way, Robo going down. Seems like he just wants to move into Phoenix Colossus play, and you know, against a lot of Terran openers, it's safe against a lot of early game stuff. Certainly, like, for example, what we saw XY do yesterday. It means, yeah, you take your third base a little bit later, but if you think your opponent's going to be aggressive, it's a pretty solid option.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that TeebuL is one of those players that he has the kind of authority to play in the Asia region and everything, but I do believe he's a lot closer for the most part with like a lot of the other European players and stuff. I believe it's Pakistani like citizenship that allows him to play in the region and everything, but I think he plays a lot more like a kind of European Protoss player, like one of those aspiring rising European Protoss players. So it doesn't surprise me to see him playing like a pretty normal, typical style these days.
Oh, nice. Oh, he gets the jump. There we go. So Oriana now runs in, but they're Phoenix here. So it's a little bit of a micro move. Does not work out. And this Widowmine drop. Now he's going to try to bait it out. Oh, Phoenix. Okay. Gets damage on one, but he's going to intentionally eat the shot on both. So make sure he can kill the Widowmines. I don't know that I like that, actually. I mean, the Phoenix don't die, but that is too very low Phoenix now.
Yeah, I also don't know how I feel about that, just because specifically the Widowmines were so out in the middle of nowhere that it was going to be difficult for the medevac to actually ever pick those back up safely. Like, it's going to be very difficult for those Widowmines to ever really make it back anywhere in a safe period of time. And the Phoenix, I mean, I guess they do get the opportunity to now move just straight across the map and don't have to like babysit around or guard those Widowmines from being able to make their way forward. And they get a Raven snipe, which is actually a really big deal. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm with you. I wasn't a big fan of it, but as I see how things play out from it, I'm like, you know what? I don't hate it that much.
In fairness, I'm not worried about right now. When you have, you know, Phoenix and they're harassing a little bit, they're kind of floating on the edge. You really shouldn't lose one from that perspective. It's more about when the Terran goes for their push and you want the Phoenix to go lift tanks and lift cyclones and cause damage on the tech. And that's when having a bunch of Phoenix that are very low make me worried, right? Because then it's just a couple Marines, they snap them down very quickly. But for now, you're absolutely right. You know, getting the Raven is massive, especially when you are for this Phoenix Colossus play. And it's all about like your ground defense, your anti-ground is all on having 2 to 3 Colossus out. Without the Raven there, you have no way to really shut them down, and you know the tanks are going to get lifted. So Oriana, he's just going to have to go into the mid game at this point. I don't really put a lot of faith in any sort of push, but luckily for him, his third base is roughly on the way. It's been delayed twice now, but eventually it's going to be a decent enough timing.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. Delaying that command center is going to be a bit annoying, but like you were saying, decent enough timing still coming out here for Oriana. And I guess part of the question for me here is when Oriana wants to try and seize a little bit more map control, because that is one of the tricky things to do against the Phoenix play. Is very difficult to get any kind of, you know, medevac drops out over there to put any kind of pressure on your opponents. But eventually you do want to hit this kind of critical mass point where your army is big enough, you're expanding and maybe thinking, okay, I am going to try and cover my expansion by going for a bit of aggression myself. Is starting to make his way forward and get in his siege tank position to potentially just set up his third base now.
Yeah, I feel like he's just got to go and kind of defend his third base at this point. Yeah, Stim is done. Yes, combat shields are done. +1. All those are wonderful upgrades. But Oriana's only up about 16 army supply. Again, he's lacking that Raven. We have already, what, 2 Colossus, 3 Colossus on the map, 2 Colossus here. Well, this is the interesting thing. TeebuL is the one that seems to want to get aggressive right now. Instead of getting that third Colossus, which is kind of what you would expect, he's getting a Warp Prism. And he's posturing out on the map here. I really like his defensive chops, but there is no charge. +1 is not done. I don't know how much I like his aggressive options right now, but that's a decent force field already. A couple units will fall.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you in that, in just the sense that I feel like TeebuL, I feel like if him staying back and continuing to just like tech up and get his upgrades and continue to expand and stuff, I feel like it actually would be a really good play for him. And now as he moves out, he basically also revealed the location of his Phoenix and his army. So this triple medevac drop is going to be extremely effective, to at least and maneuvering over the main base, depowering a bunch of things. Zealots are going to get dealt with. The Phoenix cannot deal with this on their own, so they actually all end up falling over here. And Oriana is finding a massacre of damage here.
Yeah, it's not the economic damage that you might like, but it depowers a couple of 3 gateways against all those Phoenixes, and that unlocks a massive push onto the third base as well. And TeebuL is just not where he needs to be at all. The trap, by the way, in the main, it still has not been dealt with because TeebuL, he kind of A-moves over, so the third base is dead. The main base continues to take damage. A couple Zealots, a couple Stalkers, they run in, but again, they don't find the value that they're looking for. And I'm not okay with the Zealots and the Guardian Shield. That might be enough to defend this. Actually, no, the Marauders are going to get on top of the Colossus, and at least one of these Colossus will hit the deck. There we go. So much value coming in. I mean, yes, there were Zealots on the other side, and they killed 10 SCVs, but you know, Fear Dragon, in the balance of things, this drop still hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah, the original drop that basically started all of the problems here for TeebuL, you're right, it hasn't been even cleaned up just yet. It will finally get pushed back. It will finally be forced to lift up and retreat on out. But so much damage has been done. There's a reason why he's almost 50 supply ahead. And you're absolutely right to point out that yes, 10 workers going down to the Warp Prism Zealot drop was some okay damage. But in fact, I actually think it probably ended up worse because TeebuL was distracted doing it and ended up losing things like extra Colossus and stuff. Because the one extra hope maybe in these situations, sometimes when you take devastating damage like that, is that you still have an army that can win a big fight and then do some big counterplay. TeebuL ended up losing so much of his army, basically just also doing his drop harassment stuff instead of being able to reinforce back at home, instead of being able to micro his Colossus to keep other units alive and stuff. I actually think that that drop did more damage than, or like to himself, than it did to his opponent.
Yeah, that is certainly fair, but for now, the bio moves in. Those are nice force fields, though, and Shield Banner River Charge. Yeah, one Colossus will go down, but this is possibly the best fight that TeebuL was going to get. I don't think it really matters at the end of the day as the Zealots run in. Colossus finally gets targeted down, but, you know, it is something. That Shield Banner River Charge was really, really nice. Even still, all the tech is dead. Disruptor is going to have to get split up, or to actually just pick up and drop down once again. Bio doing a little bit of push-ups there, and our Oriana takes game 1.
Really well done by Oriana, actually. I think that it was a little unfortunate to watch that because I think TeebuL was actually in a pretty good position before that drop happened. And I think that drop gets basically prompted by the fact that TeebuL did that move out when he was up almost like, I want to say like 18 or so workers, had like a really solid economy. I think if he just chilled, like you were talking about, used his defensive chops, taking a 4th base, and also if his army's not out there in the middle, revealing that both the army and all of the Phoenix are in one place in the center of the map, there's no way that Oriana, who was clearly being very defensive and pulled back against the Phoenix play, was going to feel comfortable just loading up 3 medevacs and trying to go for a doom drop in the main base. Like, that was just not on Oriana's mind until he knew exactly where everything was.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. And it cannot be overstated just how big that attack, how much damage that attack did. I pulled up the battle report afterwards, and unfortunately we didn't get a chance to talk about it in game, but Oriana killed about 10,000 resources over the course of that like minute and a half fight. Meanwhile, TeebuL got like 3K. Like it was, it's one of those things where you pull up the resources lost over the course of a 15-minute game, and you say, yeah, 7,000 difference. That is pretty significant. That's probably game deciding, certainly in a PvT. And to see that happen in about 90 seconds that's a lot of money.
That's painful. Yeah. Really unfortunate. I mean, I think I still, the bright side of things is that I actually still have a lot of confidence that TeebuL can do better in a game number 2 or something, as long as he's not feeling like too upset about how game 1 or anything happens. You know, momentum is a heck of a thing. But I feel like TeebuL showed that he was actually doing a pretty solid job in that early stage of the game. It's just, as you were saying, that one drop completely changing things. And it was the fact that the drop also opened up the opportunity for the 3rd base attack and everything, because TeebuL was out of position. So then he had to like retreat back with everything, but he had everything over to the main base, which opened up the avenue for the 3rd base attack, which pulled him further apart. Like everything fell apart with that one thing. And it's like, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a curse in the sense that it's very easy to, like, depending on your mentality about it, focus in on that one thing and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I threw that game. I was in a good spot. Things were going so well. And then I made this mistake. The blessing side of it is if you have like a really strong and good mentality about it, you can look at it and be like, I was doing great until that one thing. I just have to not do that again. And like, don't make a silly mistake like that again. But I was doing great. I have a reason to feel confident moving to game 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to move in to map number 2 here. Oriana up massively in that game. I still can't get over how much damage that drop did. That was kind of crazy. But it's a new map. It's a new game. It's Dragon Scales, actually, is going to be map number 2. And now let's see whether TeebuL can take his kind of build order advantage that he built for himself and turn it into an advantage that doesn't get wiped out by a single drop, and a really nice bit of pressure coming in from Oriana because map 2 is here. And in the upper left, in the red, he's down a game in this series because drops are powerful things. For Berserker Esports, it's TeebuL.
And down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, blue Terran player from Mystery Gaming. He is Oriana. And we talked a lot about like TeebuL and his reaction and his kind of move out there and everything, but I do have to give big kudos to Oriana, who was playing very clearly a defensive style after seeing the Phoenix opening and stuff, and seeing that, yes, it was going to be difficult to get a lot of drop harassment and stuff done. But the moment he saw the opportunity, he was fearless about taking it. He didn't hesitate. He didn't dilly-dally or any of that kind of stuff. He really was just ready to take advantage of the opportunity presented to him. So, I mean, big kudos to him. He did that, and he also capitalized on it with like the follow-up attacks and stuff. He didn't just do the drop and then kind of like wait and sit back and play defensive and be shy about it. He said, I have like a window of opportunity to do this, and I'm gonna make sure that my follow-ups to all of this also are all set up and everything. So I mean, big kudos to him. Oriana actually did a really great job, because I think that last game, you're absolutely right. The amount of damage that a drop got done was unreal, but it's only unreal because Oriana was ready to capitalize on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I really wish I had picture-in-picture set up, because it's so hard to capture what was happening. He had the majority of his army stimming in onto the third pretty much as soon as the drop went down, as soon as he realized that TeebuL was reacting to it. And that's kind of what you want to do, right? When you are certainly, and that's kind of just a really promising, something really promising for Oriana at this point, when we see these players that, you know, we don't know a lot about him. We talked about how Oriana, he's won less than $500 total dollars in his entire StarCraft career. You're like, okay, you know, who's this guy? What does he do? Well, the ability to set up the 1-2 punch like that and then just never stop, take total advantage of it, have that killer instinct. If we talk about wanting to see players develop, I mean, that is really promising. That's the kind of thing that is really hard to learn. You can learn to build all you want, right? But having the ability to read the game and like having that really good game sense, that takes a lot longer to develop. Yeah, instinct is I think the way a lot of people put it. You're right. It's something that is oftentimes either you have it or you have to learn it through a lot of experience. And whichever way Oriana feels like he got it, it's definitely been working out in that last game at least. So let's see what the plans are for game number 2. He does look like he's setting up for yet another one of these potential Widowmine drops. So we'll see how that pans out. But TeebuL is going to be mixing things up from the first game. He's not going to be going for that Phoenix opening. He's going to be going for the Blink opening this game. Yeah, it's a little bit more, I'm going to say that's a little bit more standard. There has been kind of a shift towards a higher preference for Stargate openings. Ooh, Reaper and Phoenix farther away, and Reaper goes down. Excuse me, the Hellion, not the Phoenix, finds his way into the main base, gets a full scout on things. Probes get pulled off, and ooh, you got to be careful there. 1 or 2 more shots, and that is a bunch of dead probes. Even still, TeebuL just, that's actually a fairly significant amount of mining time lost. More probes get pulled off, and the Hellion will eventually go down. But I mean, that's value. That is significant value there.
Yeah, got a lot of delayed mining time and stuff. You're absolutely right about that. Got the scout off and knows pretty much exactly what he's probably going to be up against based on the gateway counts and stuff. You can kind of infer like the opportunities of, all right, there's a good chance you have a robo, you have a single or like, sorry, 2 gateways. So chances that you're going for like some kind of 3-gate or 4-gate blink aggression is extremely low. What's probably a good follow-up to this that most pros players would go for? Yeah, fast robo bay is probably in line with, I imagine, what Oriana is thinking about it. And I mean, seeing the robo bay with the medevac also kind of just makes it a little bit more obvious.
It's a pretty good scout, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, it is kind of unfortunate here that Oriana did take a path that went right over the third base, so he knows the third base timing very well. But also, this Widowmine drop is not going to find value. And granted, you know, 2 Widowmines and a medevac, it doesn't really need to. The build is not predicated on, oh, wow, you know, I'm going to go kill. If I don't kill 20 probes, I'm just not winning this game. It's nice to get something, but even now, it's forcing TeebuL back. His blink is done. He's got, what is it, I assume 2 gateways. Yeah, so he's got 2 gates. He's got this blink. He would like to be aggressive on the map. Just at least start to poke, right? At least delay Oriana's potential move at it a little bit, but instead he does have to sit at home. He does have to keep these stalkers on either side of this dead airspace, so the drop is not going to kind of catch him off guard as he's trying to micro. And that's nice for Oriana. That buys him a lot of space on the map to build whatever he wants to do. Really not have to worry about things for the most part. But look at this. So we looked at this robo bay, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you know, this is 2-gate blink. There are going to be Colossus behind that. It's a macro build. This makes a lot of sense. This is charge lots and a couple disruptors. This is very different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to point that out. This is maybe going to be a bit different from what Oriana will be expecting. We'll see how he is able to react to this, because the charge line and disruptor style, I'm always a little bit torn on it because it always feels very precarious to me. But I think pros players have gotten very good with the disruptor like control overall. But it can be a very tough style sometimes where your zealots are just trying to close the distance, and your disruptor shots are also trying to go to the same place your zealots are. It's a very, very dangerous kind of situation. But if you can hit a big shot, even that's honestly not too bad. 5 or 6 Marines going down over there. It does reveal a bit of what's going on, though.
I'm a little bit worried for Oriana right now, actually. I mean, he's on the map. His army is powerful. Stim is done. Combat shields are done. +1 just about done. But TeebuL's getting ready for a big bit of time because the Widowmine drop goes off. Probe pull is mostly in time. Actually, outblinks one of them, but still gets 2 probes. Very nice. That's a lot of zealots on the right side as the the medevac goes down here as well. So nothing really to heal this army. Yeah, Oriana's gonna get a gateway. He's gonna kill a cyber core, but this zealot disruptor flank, that feels very good against what Oriana has right now.
This is going to be extremely awkward. Does Oriana elevate her up to the main? That could be the play, actually. Because there's not a lot of mobility for this army. It's charge loss and disruptors. They are not going to be able to deal with the cliff face very well. The Zealots getting devastating amounts of damage. Oriana has to do some big damage himself right now. Disruptors do get interference matrix, but one of them still active. The load up on the medevacs takes him over to the main base, but most of the other power units for this army have been taken care of, and a recall happens in the main base to deal with the rest of this.
Oh man, Disruptor on the wrong side of the Nexus on the recall, so it just gets targeted down. But even still, there are more Stalkers, there are more Zealots here. Oriana, he went for an aggressive move against an even more aggressive Terran, and I can understand why he went for this play, right? Until scouting that Disruptor, you're thinking, okay, well, you know what? This is a Robo-Bay. This is going to be Colossus. It's 2-gate Blink Stalker, 3rd base. Fine. I can get aggressive against that. I got a Raven. I can Elevator. Like, the Protoss is going to struggle to defend this push. But instead, it's 8 gates very quickly because, again, getting Disruptors are a little bit cheaper. It's 8 gates. It's a gateway on the map. It's tons of Disruptors. It's a massive run by. And now TeebuL is in a fantastic spot here. I don't know that he can break the high ground of the Terran, but he can certainly prevent a 3rd.
No, I'm with you, and I don't think he needs to.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah, he's got his 4th base on the way. I mean, he's got a Widowmine drop on the north side, and maybe that's going to find some level of value as a stalker. Scouts forward. What? I mean, oh, maybe TeebuL's not pulling. TeebuL. Probes. TeebuL pull. Oh, that's 4. I thought that could have been a lot more. And this one, TeebuL does pull away a little bit. So you needed a much bigger Widowmine drop to bring Oriana back into this game, at least in a kind of one fell swoop. This pull is going to be a lot better. It's going to get maybe a Stalker. No, actually, no, there we go. It gets a Stalker. Damage on more. But 4 workers and a Stalker, even with clearing this position up on outside of Oriana's natural, it feels like you do need more. Oh, well, hey, getting a Disruptor is nice.
I'm definitely with you. Finding a Disruptor, you're right, is definitely nice. And actually killing quite a few of these Zealots pretty cost efficiently is also going to be nice. And finally has a little bit of map control, can establish that 3rd base and everything. Oriana actually, you know, very suddenly climbing quite a bit in supply over there. I know that a lot of that is also still just the production round that's coming on out, but he did kill off a lot of Zealots. He did delay a lot of production, it feels like, as TeebuL was just dealing with all the Widowmine drops and had his economy kind of stinted as probes were being pulled around. This Zealot drop is going to be, or this Zealot run by is going to be very annoying, but Oriana is not looking as bad as he was maybe a few minutes ago, especially with the army supply lead here.
Now, the big deal is I want to say that Widowmine in the natural, because there's an armory done, wasn't dealt with at first. So I got a second shot off, and instead of getting like 6 probes, 11 total went down, which is again really, really nice. And the Zealots, they run into the natural because actually there's just not enough SCVs on the 3rd. But they're going to get dealt with there. So the run by, for the most part, has been dealt with. This drop on the right side seems destined to kill the 4th base. And you're right. All of a sudden, Oriana, he's got about a 20 army supply lead. His upgrades are in a good position. More probes hit the deck. And just in general, into the natural here, this actually seems destined to get even more. Oriana is clawing his way absolutely back into this game.
Yeah, a little bit of an awkward situation. He is going to be a bit trapped over here, but after the Zealots are gone, there's not that much over here to buffer. Disruptor is going to ensure that these units cannot stick around for too much longer, though. They have to elevator over to the main base, taking out the photon cannon. There's actually only 2 pylons powering a lot of these gateways right now, so that could also be a dangerous target if he finds opportunity to. But 27 workers going down with the drop over on the right-hand side. It does feel like TeebuL is kind of just starting to fall apart to the aggression here.
Yeah, this seems to be a very similar story of game 1, right? Where TeebuL honestly, in game 2, puts himself in an even better spot. He handles the, oh man, that pylon. Oh, he delays +2 attack. And actually, yeah, he kills +2 armor. He prevents all the warpins. Beautiful pylon snipe there. But yeah, it's TeebuL puts himself in a good spot early on. He defends against the aggression in one way, shape, or form. And then Oriana just starts dropping, and TeebuL is just not prepared to deal with it.
Yeah, that is a desperation. I know that I'm in a bad spot, Dark Shrine, if I've ever seen one. This is TeebuL, I think, acknowledging that he has taken an absurd amount of damage to all this drop harassment, all of this aggression that's been happening has been putting him on the back foot. So he is really pinning a lot of hopes that he's just going to be able to find a lot of counter damage with that. But that Dark Shrine takes quite a bit of time to finish on up. And Oriana, I think he's well situated and acknowledging now that TeebuL wants to go for something aggressive. And unfortunately, I don't actually think that that is going to be the right call here, because TeebuL's sitting at almost half the army supply. I don't know if he can make this work.
But he's also down 10. He's also down 10 workers, and the Terran has mules, and the Terran has 2-2. Or 2-2 just about done. I don't know that there is a good option for TeebuL right now. It's kind of one of those, well, you know what? I got a lot of charge lots. I got some Colossus. Maybe this is going to work out here. Maybe at least I can kind of equalize the economy. And that's a lot of sentries. So force fields can be really powerful here. And they're going to be massive, actually. But even still, the BioArc, the BioConcave is just not doing enough. Even with the hallucinated Colossus to try to just buffer some damage from these Vikings, it's just really not working out. One Colossus will fall. The hallucinated one not targeted down all that quickly. It seems like Oriana is aware of what's happening. And now there just really is not enough. The army falls. The last Colossus will go down. Widowmine drops on the backside for good measure. And Oriana loses 14 SCVs, but he does secure the 2-0. And honestly, pretty impressive play coming out of the young Chinese Terran.